Hello. You know what? One thing I've always found interesting about Roblox Studio is that no two developers have their studio set up the same way. If you didn't already know, every single game on Roblox is made using Roblox Studio, and whether you're a scripter, a builder, a UI designer, an animator, or a particle effects person, you have your own unique way of navigating Roblox Studio and using it to create. And no matter what the pretentious children on Hidden Devs tell you, that is completely okay. I am a builder, and I like to think I'm decent at it, and I've spent a lot of time around developer communities.
I want to marry Holly right now.
And one thing that I've noticed is that no matter how different our building styles are or the way that we've set up our studio, we all tend to have one thing in common, which is that we all have a dedicated space for us to store our building tools. A traditional builder on Roblox builds with parts. These are essentially the bricks that we use to make everything, and you can color these bricks, you can texture them. That is the traditional way of building in Roblox. That's why we are called builders, and not something more fancy like map designers or something. However, as competition has gotten higher and higher and builders need to get better than other builders so that they have a chance of entering development teams and making a game that's successful, just building with bricks has become a challenge. And so throughout the years, builders have found new objects to create with. These are things that aren't usually that easily accessed in Roblox Studio. These are usually meshes that we have sourced from a 3D modeler or that we've modeled ourselves. And very quickly there comes this problem where you need to store all of your assets so that you can easily access them in the future to make builds. It just speeds up your workflow and makes it so that you can make better things faster. Now, I am a showcase builder. I make incredibly detailed maps on Roblox, things that I've shown people that don't play Roblox, and they've looked at it and gone, I cannot believe that's Roblox. And with that level of detail and precision, I have a huge collection of tools that I use to build. So big, in fact, that I cannot import them into the world that I'm building. I have to have them in a separate studio, and I just tap in between the different studios to access them. My collection has gotten so big that when I decided to reorganize everything, name it and tag it, organize it into a new studio, it took half a year to do. All game development had to come to a grinding halt because the studio where I store all of my building tools is so essential to my building that if it's under maintenance, everything stops. A couple days ago, I finally finished reorganizing that studio, and I have started continuing work on games again. However, I wanted to spend today looking back at old studios that I used to use to store my assets because I kind of want to show you how it evolved. So, without further ado, let's do it. Here's my Roblox studio. You can see all of the recent games that I've made, and then at the bottom, all of the really bad ones. And there are a lot. There's a lot more than you can see here. Most of the games I have are folders and not saved onto Roblox Studio in the cloud. So you can tell just how old this studio is because it still has the old Lego brick texture. Cool 911. I'm being held captive. This isn't a joke. I used to give them funny names because when you're on the Roblox page, people could see what you were developing. You used to be able to hold your mouse over one of your developing friends and it would specifically tell the name of the studio that they were developing in. And so I just thought it would be funny to have Cool 911 and being held captive. This isn't a joke whenever a player hovered their mouse over. I was such a little troll. This is not my first ever studio, however it is one that contains the oldest build tools collection that I had, which is this. I didn't make this. I think I was working in a team and one of the other builders had this and let me take it from him. And I've noticed that that is pretty normal in Roblox. The more you play Roblox, the more you notice that everything is kind of made very similar and they all contain some of the same assets. Showcases in particular all contain these same 2 or 3 trees that I see everywhere, and that's simply because builders circulate them around. They give them to other builders to use. You can usually tell the difference between a professional builder and an amateur builder because a professional builder with a team will usually have their own 3D models that they either commission someone else to make or that they made themselves. But this was back when I was very amateur, and so all of these are also very amateur. All of these, by the way, are Roblox materials. These aren't imported. Someone didn't make these. These were already in Roblox Studio. These are vanilla ones that everyone can use. But the most valuable objects on this is the avatar shape, because this would have been used to scale builds to make sure that they're the right size, but also things like this. Roblox has a corner wedge now that you can just click and get. Here it is, corner wedge. However, at the time, this was not a thing. So this was a very valuable object for a Roblox builder back in the day. A truss is another one of those that was very valuable to a Roblox player, and sphere meshes as well. The normal Roblox sphere, this one here, cannot be stretched. It can only be sized up and down, whereas the mesh sphere could be stretched and it could also be negated and unioned. Normal meshes on Roblox you can't do that with, so this was also a very nifty thing to have. So what did I use this specific group of parts for? Well, one big example would have been to make the Halo 5 AR. One day I was making an SCP map for a development team and they gave me a certain asset pack that changed my building style forever, and I think I still have it. Now, if you were a showcase builder back in 2018, 2019, you will have the most brain bamboozling nostalgia seeing this, because this was every showcase artist's bread and butter. This circulated around the build community so fast when it was discovered, and the main reason for that is because the textures were gridded, which meant that they were repeatable. No matter how much you stretched the part out, the texture on it repeated seamlessly. This was absolutely huge. No other person had textures like this, and then someone uploaded a bunch of them, grouped them all together, and everyone just started using it. So what did I use these textures on? Basically everything. So these textures were in Roblox before the future lighting engine was, and the future lighting engine allowed for normal maps, and point lights could affect normal maps, which meant that all of a sudden you were getting such high quality builds. Like I said, this was before the future lighting engine was implemented into Studio, which meant that finding really high quality textures like this, it was the most detailed you could possibly get at the time on Roblox. What was great about these textures is that they were recolorable, and you could also change the material underneath. They were very versatile. Versatile? My dad watches my YouTube videos, and in the last video he made fun of how I pronounce botanical. Apparently it's botanical. Thanks, Dad. Let me show you some of my old builds that used these textures in them, because like I said, I was building with these textures until the future lighting engine came out. Here is one. I don't know what this was supposed to be. I never released it or finished it. And all of these models here, I will show you where I stored these in a moment, because these also needed storing. If you were a good builder, you were able to use those unique textures like these, but you were also able to add some color variants into your build, and then you had something that was very, very realistic. This was the era of Roblox where it didn't look like Lego anymore, but it didn't look great either. Think of games like the classic Flood Escape, Lumber Tycoon. This was this era of building, and so a showcase artist that was using these textures and color variants, they were making a build quality that was much better than the normal stuff that you were seeing on Roblox at the time, which is why it was so revolutionary when these textures were a thing. Here's another unfinished build with those textures. God, this build is awful. So here's one of the better looking builds that I did. This one never got released. As you can see, I never finished it, but by Roblox standards, this was an incredibly realistic looking build and of really good quality too. Like, the attention to detail for just using bricks was amazing, just saying. Even this here, this isn't normal mapped. This is a flat texture. Being able to have good quality textures, we're able to make this brick wall feel more 3D. It was a really, really good way to cheat around lighting, considering we did not have PBR textures yet. This is also very nostalgic. In fact, I had like this nightmare and this house was in it and I was inspired to build it. Never finished it though. Very sad. This was one of the last builds that I ever made before the studio lighting engine was updated. So this was one of the last builds that I made that still included these textures. I don't use these textures at all anymore. But yeah, this was meant to be like a little boathouse. Oh yeah, this was also the time when I found these assets as well. Oh look, there's my old Roblox avatar. You might have noticed that there are lots of additional models in here. These were all handmade by me, but how exactly do you you go about storing models like this on Roblox? The correct answer, the answer that Roblox would want me to tell you, is that you save them on Roblox and then they appear here in the models section. However, I absolutely despise this thing. The preview that it gives you is completely random. Sometimes it can give you a really good preview and you can clearly see what it is, like with this boombox. Other times, you don't know what you're looking at. Like this. This was meant to be a cabin. What is that? This is what the build was meant to look like. But for some reason, the preview that they gave was something like that. That's awful. If you want to give it a better thumbnail, you need to manually add in a thumbnail camera and position it. It's just a nightmare and it wastes so much time. And then sometimes the thumbnail doesn't even load for some reason. And then if you don't have the textures, like in this one, look at that. You're pretty much out of luck. This is not meant to be white. Look, these are all missing textures. It's an awful system of storing and I barely use it. I only ever upload models if they're very valuable to me. I essentially use this as a backup. So where do I keep my models? Well, I keep them in specific studios dedicated to models. So I have lost access to most of my super duper old model houses. And that's because I don't keep backups of them when I move all of the objects to the next studio. That being said, I do have 3 different studios. So this right here is my Bible. This is where I would store every single model that I ever created. And I think the first thing you might notice about it is that it is an absolute mess. I was still storing models in the same places I was building models at the time. One of the Renwick Hilt houses is actually here. In fact, this is an older version of it where it wasn't completely furnished yet. I didn't really need it to be organized because I was the only one using it. It originally started with just these meshes from before and just these textures, and the more things I would make, the more I would add, and so I knew this studio like the back of my hand. In fact, I still know this studio really well. I know for a fact that if I want to access the horse tack, that would be over here. Except it's not, because this is an older version of the studio where I didn't add the horse tack yet. I found the exact spot where the thumbnail camera for the file was set. It was like facing this way, and so I put this in front of it so that whenever... don't worry about it. But yeah, it was starting to become inefficient to use this, and I just fancied reorganizing everything. This studio gives me PTSD because this was the studio that I spent months transferring. Everything in here I had to name, I had to categorize, I had to make sure that all of the collisions were set to the right things. I had to make sure it was all anchored, and then I had to move it all into the studio that I'm currently using. And as you can see, it is a bit more organized, but still a little bit of a hot mess. Another thing was that this was also very laggy. If I was working on a super detailed showcase and then I had this file up alongside it, it would make my PC a little bit upset. Yeah, 6 months ago, I finally decided that this was not working. How I've gone about it now is spread this studio a bit thin. I have 3 different studios where I store 3 different types of asset. This is the build tools. As you can see, it contains all of the meshes that I use when I occasionally do brick building. These are all of my pillar meshes. These are things like dividers and corners. This is like flat surface texturing. These are for making signs and panels. These are fonts for writing, walls, certain decals that I tend to use all the time, stairs, floors. These are miscellaneous meshes, door handles, sinks, baths, toilets. This is fencing. These are doors and windows, ladders, wiring and stuff, fireplaces, stoves, bridges. These are whole buildings, roofing, and wood pillars and beams and stuff. It is a bit more organized, and then this would work in conjunction with 2 other studios where I stored the rest of my stuff. I'm pretty confident my camera might bug out while I'm in this studio. It is, as you can see, significantly bigger, and while not everything is loading in yet, I guarantee you there is a lot more stuff here than there appears to be. We have chairs, beds, tables, shelving, grime, vehicles, indoor ceramics, outdoor ceramics, animal-related things, potting, fabrics, floor coverings, artwork, clothing, meat, fish, fruit, vegetables, full dishes, bakery, dairy and animal products, tinned foods, statues, pillows, lanterns, lights, candles, equestrian, bunting, kitchenware, jugs and teapots, drinks, fire, things to do with children, containers, plates, bowls, clocks, instruments, tools, books, celestial bodies, wood, and my personal favorite, miscellaneous. I love this studio. It is full of so many weird and random things. A wooden crocodile, a metal statue of Ganesh, a Christmas bauble, a porcelain horse. The tools have some of the weirdest things in them. Like, if I show you this, what do you think it is? I guarantee you won't be able to guess what it is. This is a doctor's press that they use for pressing pills into shape. I think this is one of the old like handheld portable radios. I honestly haven't the slightest clue what this thing is. The statues are where all the interesting stuff is at. Some people are doing some really weird, interesting stuff in here. A lot of them have really goofy faces because I had to make them low poly. I absolutely botched this one. He looks normal until you turn to the side and realize he hasn't got a nose. This is my favorite model in the studio. It's a chair that's shaped like a really crazy cat. So, now that I have organized my studios and I've shown you a little bit about what they used to look like and how far I've come. Jesus, I've been developing on Roblox for so long. I don't think people realize how long it takes to make a world from scratch. They don't quite realize that everything they're seeing was made by someone. And that's why it has been almost a year since I released a game. We've only got 3 months left until the year is over and I haven't made a game. And it's because asset creation for that game takes incredibly long and you don't have anything to show for it until a game is released. And that's actually why I'm thinking of putting my assets up for sale. I imagine that there are lots of Roblox showcase artists and builders out there that would absolutely kill for all of the furnishings and objects that I have, and it would save them so much time if they could have them for themselves to use and build with. The problem is that I don't really know how I want to go about it. As much as I love all of the Roblox builders out there and want to try and help them the best they can, at the end of the day, that's 6 months of my life that I have dedicated, and in that time I could have been getting paid for something else. I could sell the models on Roblox, however that would suck because I wouldn't be able to sell it for real money. I'd have to sell it for Robux. Roblox takes an 80% cut, and also people have scrapers on Roblox, and if you upload any of your models onto the Roblox marketplace, they are just gonna get scraped. If people don't want to pay for it, they will find a way to get it without paying. The other option is to sell the entire file itself for real money. That would be the ideal thing I want to do. However, not only do I not really know how to set that up, I also have a suspicion it might be breaking Roblox TOS. So yeah, I'm kind of stumped as to what I want to do with it because I'd love to find a way to let other people use it. I think that it's wasted potential for just me to be using. People have the potential to make really good quality Roblox builds with the assets that I have created. In the meantime, I'm going to continue creating things. I'm getting back on track with working on the games that you've seen. People in my Discord server are the first to see all of the progress that I make on games, so please join if you are able to. Ages 13 plus only, please. And yeah, make this week a great one by being kind to others, and I will upload something cool and interesting at some point. Goodbye.